Hey guys, it's Dylan from Yugioh Everything, and welcome back to another Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains episode review. This time we will be reviewing episode 22 of Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains, and right off the bat I will say I have not had this much fun watching a Yu-Gi-Oh! Episode in quite some time, and I know I sound like a broken record. I know I said that about 18, I know I said that about 19, but this episode, there was just so much that went on. I don't even mind that like 21 was the way it was. First of all, I wasn't one of those people who was really, really upset with it. I thought it was a little silly that, again, we had a second recap episode so early. But I was like, it didn't really kill off my hype because I knew we were going to get new characters in this episode. I knew we were going to get introduced to another phenomenon and maybe another group. And while another group didn't happen, something that did happen is the Knights of Hanoi just got legitimized so much. I mean, everyone that was introduced except Makoto, which Makoto was very good for Go's character, was there all for the Knights of Hanoi. The Knights of Hanoi really got strengthened by three new members, Dr. Genome, Faust, and Vyra. And Faust and Vyra did go unnamed in this episode. We know that's their name because of the cast list that comes out. I don't think that's too spoilery. I don't think anyone's going to be like, oh man, I didn't want to know their name. But those are the names of the two characters. And well, hopefully that wasn't too spoiler. I'm sure we would have gotten the names at some point or another. So now every time I say another, I'm going to think I'm referring to the phenomenon. But so that's going to certainly get confusing. But it's funny because all these three new characters it looked like kind of like dual gazers, right? From Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal. And if you didn't watch Zexal, because I know there are a few people that didn't watch Zexal, with Zexal, you'd put on a dual gazer, you'd go into augmented reality, and that's the setting where you duel your opponent. And with Dr. Genome, with Faust, and with Vyra, and Faust and Vyra again were the male and female that talked to Revolver. And when Revolver was like, oh man, over 1,000 people have joined the Knights of Hanoi. That is insane, first of all. We didn't know how many people were in the Knights of Hanoi. And another really interesting thing that was said was, these are people. These are human beings. We thought that the generic Knights of Hanois, the three that were harassing the three people in VRains right before Go showed up as Playmaker and literally wrestled them off the track, we thought that these were maybe programs, because remember, one was a suicide bomber in episode 3, which all of a sudden it makes that a lot more like, holy crap, someone was literally willing to blow themselves up. And again, we still don't really know the whole relationship, but with VR and real life, even though Ignis did say at one point, and I can't even really call him Ignis because we got further confirmation, and this is something that I always believed, that Ignis is not the name of this AI, or I, as Yusaku calls him, that Ignis is the set of the 6 AIs that we saw in the beginning of episode 1, and that was pretty much confirmed because Dr. Genome literally goes to Makoto. He literally says, is your AI in Ignis? And Makoto goes, no, it's not. So clearly Ignis is plural, and clearly Ignis is referring to the 6 AIs we saw in episode 1, if I had to guess. So I'm still going to call the main AI Ignis, Yusaku's AI, but once we get more Ignises introduced to us in the show, I'll probably stray away from doing that. But that was another really interesting thing. So many interesting things, and I cannot wait to talk to you guys down below, because I'm sure I'm going to miss a few things as well. But the point I was getting to is Ignis said in episode 2, if your body takes serious fall damage or serious damage, you will die in the real world. And I'd like to imagine that in episode 3, when the knight is about to blow himself up, that would kill him in the real world. So you really can tell right off the bat how unhinged a lot of these people are, or maybe they just don't know the repercussions it will have on their body in the real world, because the guy got eaten anyway. His data got absorbed, so we don't know if that was, again, a real world death. And another kind of is, again, gray with that. Well, we know another really isn't a death, but another is pretty much a death unless someone goes and saves you, which I'm sure will happen at some point. Anyway, I'm going to start from the beginning. There's just so much to talk about. First of all, it seemed like Yu-Gi-Oh! VRains turned into a horror show this week. It was like a horror clip show in the beginning. The first 2 minutes before the opening even started, Yusaku got extremely philosophical and was talking about how, when the eclipse was coming, he was going to be the one that sees through the darkness and brings out the light. He also said that no matter how much technology advances, humans don't change, which is absolutely true. And all these technological advances and references, I relate so much to the real world now with how crazy fast technology moves. But the truth is we're still the same humans as we were in the 1900s. Like, sure, we've adapted in some senses, and some maybe ethical and emotional senses, but we're still the same humans. We still have fear, we still have hopes, we still have dreams. And so even though technology is going to advance and is maybe going to help our chances with those dreams, we still have the same fears that we had in the 1900s, maybe a little more geared towards nowadays fears. But it was a line that really struck with me. And before the opening sequence hit, I'm like, geez, we're already getting really, really deep into this show. And another thing that I liked was Emma. We saw Emma in the very beginning, and when the eclipse was coming, she goes, I wonder if this is the Knights of Hanoi or if it's a new threat. And when she said that, I literally was like, okay, well, it's clearly a new threat. This is going to be a new faction. This is going to be like a fourth faction, or maybe it'll be something associated with Seoul, because there's no way she'd say a line like that without a new threat actually being present. But again, VRains continues to keep you on your seat, because everyone that was responsible for this was a Knight of Hanoi. So she was literally just thinking out loud. But I'm so used to Yu-Gi-Oh cliches where when they bring up something, or they mention something, or they say, they start calculating what's going to happen when they activate a trap card, it never goes according to plan. So I was like, it's definitely going to be a new faction, but it wasn't. And I just like how even in the episode itself, they keep you guessing, and usually you're guessing wrong, which I'd rather be guessing wrong than guessing right, honestly, because it really just adds that, oh wow, I didn't see that coming factor. And so the episode begins with another Naoki, and Naoki, my boy Naoki, I love this guy. He's just talking to Yusaku about as he called it, Athnoer phenomenon. And when he first was talking about it, I'm like, oh my god, this has been translated as another for the last 2 weeks. Please tell me it's not actually Athnoer, because first of all, that is extremely difficult to say. And every time I saw that word appear, I was like, my eyes were just switching the NO and the TH and making it another. But luckily, he was just saying it wrong. And I just love right before the conversation ends, he's just like, yeah, luckily you don't have to worry because they don't target weak duelists, but I'm really concerned they're going to go after me. I just love this guy. But at least he was the one that kind of informed the viewers about the phenomenon. I guess that was good. I guess that was good for his character. The only animation issue that I had issue with was when he first approached Yusaku. He was animated atrociously. It looked like a kindergartner did the animation there, and I'm sure a few of you probably caught that as well. But besides that, I thought the aesthetic was actually pretty cool in this episode. And the horror clip show begins. They see a recording of a parking lot of a convenience store, 7-Eleven, Wawa, whatever it might have been. A convenience store where someone's in the parking lot near midnight for whatever reason. He's literally sitting in a parking spot. I don't question people's late night rendezvous. And he's on his phone, and the dual desk comes out and literally mauls him into Link VRains, where when that happens, you go unconscious. It's the same exact thing that happened to Aoi and Blue Angel, which I think I speculated in the 23 cast, and a few of you did speculate in the comment section on the summary videos and the castless videos that this is probably very similar to what Spectre did to Aoi, and you were all completely right. So that scene was extremely unsettling, especially the whole black and white. I just like how they did that, and then they found the next target based on, top skills. They were targeting hackers, the people going after the people that were using another to pretty much kill off people, just not indefinitely, put people in permacomas, I guess you can call it. And they found this kid named Makoto, who's Yusaku's classmate. They run to his apartment complex, and you literally see the light shining in the room, and Yusaku runs in. He ends up busting down the door, and I'm literally watching, and I'm like, geez, I feel like I'm in the middle of a freaking horror movie with these souls being torn from people's bodies, and you had the security camera footage, which you usually see in a crime scene show, and then you literally go to a creepy apartment building. And why do all these 16-year-olds live by themselves, right? All these 16-year-olds live by themselves. This Makoto guy, it said his age was 16 on the computer, and he, just like Yusaku, he lives in an apartment by himself. I know parents are usually not really around in Yu-Gi-Ohs, but I just found that kind of funny. And so Yusaku breaks down the door, and then we get introduced to Dr. Genome, who, honestly, I thought they did a magnificent job introducing him. Towards the end of this episode, he had some Marek-esque faces, maybe not at that level, but he had some pretty, really menacing evil faces, and he already, to me, is the most evil Knight of Hanoi that we have seen, which maybe says a lot, but again, the Knights of Hanoi really, really got solidified in this episode, because up until now, we've only known 3 main members: Revolver, Spectre, and Kogami, and Spectre has been AFK for so long, but now with the addition of Faust, now with the addition of Vira, and now especially with the addition of Dr. Genome, who is immediately getting his hands dirty based on the end of this episode, and he's the one that's obviously, responsible for, it seemed like he was getting a lot of enjoyment out of it. These are the kind of villains that I like, the villains that really are sadistic and get pleasure out of doing this. And, he was toying with Makoto, and he literally forced him to go to sleep and forced his body to go to sleep as he was on cliffside, meaning he knew Makoto would fall off the cliff and fall into the water and presumably drown while unconscious, which is drowning and like burning. Those are two sensations that whenever I think of just really, really disturb me. And right before he hits the water, Go Onizuka makes his triumphant return and, snatches Makoto, catches Makoto. He's yelling at Makoto, he's yelling at Genome, he's yelling at Genome to fix him, and Genome's like, you need to fight with us to get Playmaker. That's the only way we'll give you the retrieval program. Genome leaves, Go goes into the real world. And this is where things get interesting. Go's character, he's such a kind-hearted guy. We see him in a flashback, and again, we get a little more of Go's past, and I thought they built his character well, especially because we have not seen him in episode 5, so he definitely has a lot of deposition to catch up on. But we knew he grew up in an orphanage, and we see a little bit of his past, that he would chase off bullies, and Makoto was someone who, Makoto, honestly, for someone that, was in a coma for 90% of this episode and someone that we barely saw, he's someone that even got a bit of development. He was someone that helped Go, kind of a rough around the edges type of guy, become a more friendly guy, a more warm-hearted guy, and that whole dynamic was honestly really, really nice to see. And you understand why Go is so upset and why Go risked his life to save Makoto, and now Go is involved in these Knights of Hanoi duels because he has a personal vendetta. Remember, Yusaku did not want to get Go involved because he said it's too dangerous. This is life or death. Well, now Go has gotten himself involved, and that is awesome because I think we've all missed Go. He's out of the top 50 top duel. They said, oh, you're no longer a top 50 duelist, even though, he lost one time that we know of, and he was literally undefeated. He loses once, and he's out of the top 50 spots. How many undefeated duelists are in VRains? Like, Jesus Christ. But, the most interesting scene, I shouldn't say the most interesting because there were a lot of interesting scenes. First off, they're in the hospital, and Vira, which is the girl with, the weird orange hair, we've seen her before. And it was in this screenshot. That is definitely the same person. She was the nurse taking care of Blue Angel, taking care of Aoi when she was in a coma. And we were all kind of weirded out. Like, usually when, this much thought goes into the hair design for Yugioh, they have some kind of relevance. It's weird that she was in a scene for 5 seconds and that was it. Well, that's a cool little Easter egg and a cool little continuity thing. And that's interesting because that means that a Knight of Hanoi is literally working in a hospital full of another members, maybe studying them, maybe trying to keep their condition under wraps, maybe trying to keep them unwell. But what's the real purpose for sneaking her, seemingly a high-level Knight of Hanoi, into a real-life hospital? Was it to keep an eye on Aoi? Is it to plant something in these people? Who really knows? But that is definitely unsettling. We try to, if there's one group of people that we all try to trust in life, it's doctors, it's nurses, and to think that one of the doctors is a Knight of Hanoi member is definitely a little nervous. I'm not going to think too much about that because we didn't get enough about her character. We didn't even get their names, honestly, in this episode. We only know that because of the cast list, but that is definitely something to keep an eye on. So anyway, one of the most interesting scenes, Yusaku is there in his real form, and he starts walking away, and Go hears his footsteps, and I love how they did this. And Go runs out, and he's like, hey, you, who are you? Oh, are you one of Makoto's classmates? You have his uniform on. And Yusaku goes, I'm Yusaku Fujiki, and he walks away, and that was the end of that. And you don't think too much of it, because he's had those kind of interactions before with Akira. He's had those interactions with Aoi, and then we go into Link VRains. And Go Onizuka, right when Genome challenges him, just goes, well, I know Playmaker's identity. And when he said that, I was like, no freaking way. That line single-handedly solidified as one of the funnest episodes of Yu-Gi-Oh! That I have seen in such a long time. I absolutely adored this episode. Definitely my favorite episode. There was just so much that happened, and with all the new character introductions, with the creepiness of this another phenomenon, and then with Go possibly knowing Yusaku is Playmaker, possibly being the one to unveil the mask. We've always wondered who is going to learn first that Playmaker is Yusaku, and some people have speculated that Aoi has an idea. Some people thought it might have been Naoki. Well, here we go. Go Onizuka is going to figure it out. Maybe, because he could be bluffing. We just don't know. And we're going to have to wait until next week to find out. But guys, this was an incredible episode. And it was funny because Yusaku even kind of was like, maybe he does know. I thought the conversation was normal, but maybe he does know. Yusaku in that hot dog truck definitely seemed worried about it. So has Go figured it out? Is he bluffing? Either way, that was genius writing to show us a scene of Go and Yusaku interacting, and then for Go to use this as leverage against the Knights, because he very well could be bluffing, but to us as the viewer, we really don't know. And they did meet up probably the same day, earlier that day, and maybe Go figured it out. Maybe he's the only one who realized, hey, these two look alike, and maybe he did some research, and, well, I shouldn't even say that, because obviously all the research of Yusaku being connected to Playmaker is taken off the internet. They're very good about that, so I don't know, but really, really great episode. Last point I'll make is you also see the cogs in Revolver's head starting to turn, right? He begs his father, Dr. Kogami, for a little more time. He says he needs to settle a score with Playmaker. It's eating him alive. He can't continue on until he beats Playmaker, so we're already hinting at another Revolver Playmaker duel, which I think we all thought was definitely going to happen at some point or another, but I think the best part about that is you kind of already see the way Revolver might get out of the Knights of Hanoi, because he's more interested right now in the program, in what happened, the lost incident, I should say, not the program. He's more interested in the lost incident than carrying out this plan, which is why he begged his father for more time. So when the details of the lost incident emerge and maybe Playmaker can get him to switch sides, you can already see how maybe Revolver is going to have a pathway out of the Knights of Hanoi. But guys, I've rambled on for long enough. This will probably be a really long review, so I hope you guys stuck around and listened to me rambling on as I usually do. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the review. I hope you enjoyed the episode as much as I did, and please leave all your thoughts down below. And also, let me know who you think is going to win this duel, Go or Dr. Genome, because we have no information past episode 23, and from what we know about episode 23, even if you're into summaries and spoilers, we barely know anything about what's going to happen. We just basically know that there's going to be a duel. I didn't even mention the data gales, which was the tornadoes that flew up. It was a variation of data storms, it seemed. There was just so much to talk about, Jesus. Anyway, I am going to cut myself off because I honestly could ramble for another 10 minutes. So thank you guys as always so much for watching. I'll talk to you down below, and as always, I hope you have an amazing day.